Hello, everybody, and welcome to the All About 18 Celtics Talk Show. I am your host, Anthony Gabriella, and I am here to talk about the Boston Celtics, everything you want to know and need to know about what is going on with the current state of the Boston Celtics. I will cover everything from games that are happening to front office news, transactions, and all of the such, and everything going on around the NBA. So I'm excited to have you, and let's jump into it. So the Celtics just got done with the NBA trade deadline, and they have been struggling this year. The Celtics went into the trade deadline 21-23, pretty underwhelming. They have had the most COVID absences in the entire league. So that does say something. However, they have been struggling and underperforming. The Celtics made a decent-sized move, and then I'd say a smaller scale move. They traded 2 second-round picks for Evan Fournier. Evan Fournier is a guy in Orlando who is averaging 19.7 points on pretty efficient numbers, shooting 38.8% from three, so essentially 39% from three. That is going to do wonders for spacing for the Celtics. To me personally, the biggest issue the Boston Celtics had is when Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown came out of the games and there was no one to score the basketball. The bench just couldn't get it done. I'm not necessarily saying the blame is on anyone, but between Jeff Teague getting a lot of minutes, Pritchard being a rookie, Grant Williams not being a potent offensive player, Marcus Smart being in and out of the lineup throughout the whole year, obviously Kemba Walker not playing back-to-backs, there just has been no bench production. They haven't really gotten anything out of rookie Aaron Naismith, even though it's early on for him as well, especially with the injury and not playing basketball for about a year. So that one is just obviously to be waited on. So Evan Fournier coming to the team provides just an absolute punch off the Celtics bench, which they desperately needed. I'm not saying this is going to put them ahead of the Brooklyn Nets and make them contenders. I am just saying that this is a move that is going to take a lot of weight off the Boston Celtics shoulders, specifically Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. It's just Fournier is going to be on the floor sometimes when Tatum and Brown are off the floor, and it's a guy that Marcus Smart can run a pick and roll with or a pick and pop with, and he can knock down a three. You cannot leave Evan Fournier open. He can create his own shot. He's a knockdown 3-point shooter. And I'm excited for when the Celtics are going to close games with him, because if you're going to have a lineup of Kemba Walker, Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Evan Fournier, and Rob Williams on the floor, there is spacing of all sorts on there. You can't leave any of those guys open. You cannot leave Evan Fournier open in the corner, which typically is Semi Ojeleye or Grant Williams, and the defenders on other teams are leaving those guys, and that's creating a lot of issues on the offensive end for when Tatum and Brown are driving or trying to create their own shots, because the lane is clogged. There's double teams everywhere, and the Celtics really have nowhere to go. So being able to find a guy like Evan Fournier, kind of off the scrap heap, to be honest with you, considering the gift. 2 second-round picks, maybe that's a player someday, but the Celtics don't really need any more young players with, the current roster as it is. So trading those 2 second-round picks is huge for the Celtics, because it's essentially getting him for nothing. And Evan Fournier is going to help a lot with the spacing. And, I'm very excited to see how the offense operates. In that trade, Jeff Teague went to Orlando, and Orlando immediately waived him. So goodbye to the days of Jeff Teague. It was a quick experiment Boston had from the offseason, and that clearly didn't work. There was games where Teague he had some great performances in Boston. He had a 26-point game the other night. Obviously, it wasn't enough against Memphis, but, it is what it is. I'm kind of happy Teague's gone, to be completely honest with you. It should open up more minutes for Peyton Pritchard, which is what we all want to see. Pritchard has a great shot. He's been very promising as an NBA rookie, which is not typically something that you see out of an NBA rookie. So getting him more minutes is very, very important for the Celtics, and the departure of Teague should do that and force Brad Stevens' hand, because it seems like Brad Stevens is hesitant to play young guys, as we've seen for the past few years, unless your name is Jayson Tatum. With that said, there was another trade that happened. Celtics big man, Daniel Theis, very steady big man for the Boston Celtics, was shipped off to Chicago for Mo Wagner, one of my personal favorite players, just very personal reasons for that, and Luke Cornett. Now, along in that trade, Javonte Green also left the Celtics. So, a couple departures for Boston. However, I don't think it's personally too big of a deal. I actually look at it as addition by subtraction. I know some others are really, really sad about the departure of Theis, but having Theis gone allows Robert Williams, the guy we call Timelord, to just absolutely come into his own. Robert Williams is one of the most athletic players in the league. If you ever get to watch him, he is just, man, that guy fills it up down low. He's not necessarily like the bulkiest dude, which you might have troubles with the bigger players like Embiid or Jokic, but that's why Tristan Thompson is on the roster. So Robert Williams is going to jump hopefully into the starter role long term here, and he's a very young player, right in a great timeline with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So just him being able to come into the player that we know he can be is huge, and that's why I personally believe it's addition by subtraction. And I'm very excited that Daniel Theis is gone for that reason alone. Obviously, Theis is reliable, and I'm appreciative of everything he's done here in Boston. But I'm excited for them to unleash the Time Lord. He's a fan favorite in Boston, and he is just he's going to get his opportunities. Last night's game against Milwaukee, he clearly filled that stat sheet up. Not that he put up a bunch of point and rebounds, but he had blocks, he had assists. He's just such a skilled big man who can probably touch the ceiling of the TD Garden. The guy's incredible, and I'm very excited the Celtics are going to be rolling him out there more often, which has been very called for by the Celtics fan base. So, again, forcing Brad Stevens' hand by not having Daniel Theis on the roster and making him play Robert Williams. With that said, there has been some news in Boston sports recently, and that is that Andre Drummond, the Cleveland Cavaliers center, has been bought out, and his need around the NBA is clearly high because the Boston Celtics, the Los Angeles Lakers, the New York Knicks are all rumored to be in on Andre Drummond. And as of today, Brian Windhorst had mentioned that it's between the Celtics and the Lakers now, and one of those two teams are getting him. If you follow me, I'm not a huge Andre Drummond fan, just because his style of basketball is not necessarily complementary to what the Celtics system runs, and that is, the Celtics like having bigs that can either run a pick and roll, a quick pick and roll is what I should say. A quick pick and roll where, the guy's going to be a quick threat to get to the rim or jump out and maybe knock down an elbow jumper, but also can switch on defense. Robert Williams can switch on defense. Robert Williams can run a great pick and roll where he can shoot to the hoop really quickly, where Andre Drummond's a little bit more of your old traditional style big man, and he has trouble defending out on the perimeter. He still has a post-up game, which is very inefficient in today's NBA. So I'm not necessarily sure that Andre Drummond is a fit for the Boston Celtics, but the Celtics are clearly in on him, and I guess I'm indifferent. I'm okay with Andre Drummond coming into town if that means he's going to be a backup to Robert Williams, and that means Tristan Thompson is getting buried a little bit there. I mean, Drummond can definitely help us in the rebounding front. The Celtics do struggle to rebound when Tristan Thompson is out of the game. Even with Timelord and Theis, the rebounding rates are not great. And obviously Theis is gone. But so I guess Andre Drummond could help in that sense. So I will say I want Andre Drummond if it's going to mean he's a backup here and he's not taking all of the Timelord minutes. I want Robert Williams to be playing 25 to 30 minutes a game. And if Andre Drummond coming to town means Robert Williams is only going to play 15 to 20 minutes a game, I don't want it for a few reasons. The Celtics might not be a contender right now, and that just it doesn't make me want Andre Drummond because he's going to come in for half a season, then he's going to leave in free agency because he's going to want more money than what the Celtics can pay him because they're not going to pay a big man, and it's going to result in stunting Robert Williams' growth, and we do not want that. We want Robert Williams to be peaking once Jayson and Jaylen are peaking, so those three can lead the Boston Celtics to banner 18, which is what this show is all about, talking about how the Celtics can get there. So personally, I don't really feel a need for Andre Drummond. If the Celtics are trying to go for it this year and say, okay, we added Fournier, we're getting Romeo Langford back off of injury, he's a promising young wing, and we're adding Andre Drummond, maybe that they think they have the talent to get there and take down a Philadelphia and hope they get lucky and draw Milwaukee or I don't know, somehow pull off a miracle against the Brooklyn Nets, who are just trying to build the dream team of. I mean, it's unbelievable. The Brooklyn Nets, it's a story from their time. My next show, I'll talk about them and how they're trying to make basketball non-competitive, and it's super frustrating to me. But hey, nonetheless, the Celtics, maybe they're trying to go for it, and I respect that because you don't want to waste any years of Tatum and Brown. Their clock is ticking as far as becoming free agents at 4 years. I know I might sound crazy, 4 years down the line, but that is 2 years away from the Celtics not winning anything and teams making calls about maybe our disgruntled superstars in Boston that they don't want to play here anymore. So it's key that the Celtics start going for it now, no matter whatever opportunity they have. And bringing in Andre Drummond and Evan Fournier being a potential sixth man of the year candidate or just a amazing floor spacer for the Boston Celtics is going to be what it takes to get the Celtics over the hump into that true contender category, then sure. I mean, I guess do it. And I'm not going to question the front office. They know more than I do. However, I have the rights to just feel a little bit non-confident inside, considering the moves they've made for the past 4 years, whether it's Kyrie Irving or letting Horford or Hayward walk and Terry Rozier and signing Kemba Walker to the massive deal that they did. So, I mean, I'm not going to say Drummond's the worst thing ever, especially it's only a buyout. And if it doesn't work, whatever, that's fine. We weren't going to win anyways. I just really want the Celtics to develop Daniel Theis. I mean, Robert Williams. Daniel Theis is gone. Do not listen to me. That's a great segue talking about maybe the Celtics jumping back into being a contender by looking at last night's game. It's Saturday, March 27th. Last night, they took on the Milwaukee Bucks at the Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And wow, was that a show. Because the last 2 months for the Boston Celtics have been painful. They have lost games that you could not believe they were losing, whether it's to the New York Knicks or the lowly Cleveland Cavaliers, the Sacramento Kings getting swept in the season series by them. Man, it's tough sledding right now if you're a Celtics fan. But last night's game against the Milwaukee Bucks shows what the Boston Celtics can be. The Boston Celtics absolutely gave it to the Milwaukee Bucks. Yeah, they only won by a couple points in the end, like 9 or 8 points, whatever they won by. The game was never that close. The Celtics blew the doors off the Milwaukee Bucks, off of Giannis. They held him in check for 2 games in a row. Giannis had 13 and 16 points in those games, and that is not great for the back-to-back MVP. And that is because the Celtics know how to cover him. Between Robert Williams and Marcus Smart and Grant Williams, the switchability they have with those guys, they are great at locking down Giannis and, stopping the Milwaukee Bucks. And they showed it last night. It was a very promising win. It shows what the Celtics ceiling can be. Because if the Celtics give effort for the full 48 minutes, they can play with anyone. They really can. I'm not saying they're going to beat Brooklyn, but hey, man, if the Celtics play up to that potential that they showed last night and then add Langford and Fournier and maybe Andre Drummond to that mix, who knows? Maybe they go into the next series and pull off a miracle and we're in the NBA Finals again. Or maybe who knows? The Celtics, if they play up to their potential, can match any team based off what we saw last night. It was an amazing effort. I know it's a regular season game and I'm putting a lot of stock into it, but it's also a team that's won the season series of the Clippers. They beat some good teams this year. It's not like they're just beating bad teams. The Celtics play up to their competition and they play down to the competition. So it's like, it's inconsistent, but maybe adding Fournier to that mix and that scoring punch they need is what it's going to take to get them over the hump. And we now have the most home games for the rest of the year. The next 8 are at home besides Oklahoma City tonight, which I believe they'll take care of. And maybe the Celtics win 6 or 7 out of the next 8 games, and all of a sudden we're sitting at the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. And if the Celtics are at the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference, they can go and, get Miami or Charlotte or an Atlanta in the first round. If they win that series, they could be seeing Philadelphia, which we know they have their number. You can see the Celtics back in the conference finals. If it's against the Nets, I don't love their chances, but who knows? Maybe the Bucks beat the Nets and we get a Celtics-Bucks Eastern Conference Finals, and that's something that could lead the Celtics back to the NBA Finals. Listen, do I think it's a good chance? No, I don't. However, I am going to acknowledge that this team is not done. Clearly, they have been inconsistent this year. Clearly, they have shown times where they just look disengaged, but I think it's valid. Looking at this team, they didn't have enough depth, and now they do with the additions of Fournier to the Celtics and Romeo Langford coming back from injury and potentially Andre Drummond. And Mo Wagner's the energy guy. I'm not sure how much he's actually going to give them, but if Mo Wagner can come in for 5-10 minutes a game and just foul people and, kind of do a Mo Wagner thing where he gives energy and he's kind of a pest, great. That's going to give the Celtics a jolt to energy, and at times they need that because Marcus Smart can't be that only guy. So I'm not telling you the Celtics are winning the NBA Finals, but I am here telling you there's still like a 2-3% chance that it happens. Things have to go the right way, but we know what Tatum and Brown and Kemba and Fournier's ceiling can be, and that's, considering Fournier is probably going to play a similar role to former Celtic Gordon Hayward, we know what their ceiling can be, and if that's the case, I'm not counting the Celtics out yet. They just need to go on a winning streak here. They have a great coach. They have a great front office. They have a great owner. I trust Jayson Tatum as the number 1 player. Kemba Walker is inconsistent, but if he gets back to health and he's playing every game in the playoffs, we are going to be a force to be reckoned with if we get rolling at the right time. We were in the conference finals last year and should have been in the NBA finals. So I'm not counting the Celtics out yet. So if you came here to hear about the Boston Celtics and their chances at getting it back together, you're in the right place because you found a believer here. Just a look ahead of the next few weeks. I'm really excited for next week's game against the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, last time we played Dallas, we had a lead late, actually with about 5 seconds left, and Luka Doncic. I don't know. Some of you might know who he is. He absolutely stuck a dagger in all Celtics fans' hearts with a deep step back three to win the game as time expired. That was tough. I'm looking forward to some revenge there. I know Jayson, Jaylen, and Kemba are, and I'm very much looking forward to that one, as well as on Monday this upcoming week, we have the New Orleans Pelicans, who we had a 20-something point lead against a couple weeks ago, and we blew that game. They played great. They're some of their best basketball all season for the first half, and then just let it go away. So I'm sure they have that one marked on their calendar as well. Next week could be a huge week for the Celtics as far as positive momentum and getting back to where we know they can be. So that's a little look ahead at next week. The Celtics also have a couple of easy games on their upcoming homestand with Minnesota and Houston, which should be 2 easy wins. So the Celtics might be getting it together here, along with a game tonight in Oklahoma City. Like I said, no Al Horford out there in OKC. I know we don't have Fournier, but I'm pretty confident the Celtics are going to take care of business here and get back to 500. So that is a look ahead of the Celtics season. That is a look at the Celtics trade deadline, everything that had went down. As far as the front office plans, tune in to my next episode where I will be talking about what is there to look forward to as a Celtics fan for the next couple of years, potential moves they could possibly make. What are they setting up this offseason? Is the TPE gone? Is Kemba going to be around long term? All of those questions I will answer on the next show and more. Thank you for joining the All About 18 Celtics Talk Show. I am your host, Anthony Gabriella, and I look forward to you talking with me. And please, please, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much, and talk to you next time.